The information presented in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Purchasing a vehicle is a significant financial commitment that involves various risks, including depreciation, maintenance costs, and financing obligations. This content does not constitute professional financial, legal, or automotive engineering advice. While we utilize historical trends, market data, and case studies to inform our rankings, individual results regarding vehicle performance and resale value may vary based on local market conditions, maintenance history, and driving habits. Viewers are strongly encouraged to conduct their own due diligence, consult with certified automotive professionals, and review official safety ratings from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety before making any purchase. We do not provide specific investment advice regarding automotive stocks or long-term asset appreciation. The American dream is currently parked in your driveway, but for millions of people, that dream is slowly becoming a financial anchor. Every 29 seconds, a Ford F-Series truck rolls off an assembly line and into the hands of an American consumer, contributing to a staggering $1.6 trillion in total national auto loan debt. We are a nation obsessed with the open road. Yet most of us are driving vehicles that lose 15% of their value the moment the tires touch the pavement outside the dealership. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the most popular car makes and models in the USA. But this isn't just a list of sales figures. We are investigating a massive shift in the American psyche. We are seeing the total collapse of the traditional sedan, the rise of the $80,000 work truck that never hauls a single brick, and a silent electric revolution that just saw a battery-powered SUV become the best-selling vehicle on the entire planet. By the end of this deep dive masterclass, you will understand exactly why certain models dominate the landscape, which historical trends dictate the cars you see every day, and why the most popular choice on the lot might actually be the most dangerous move for your long-term wealth. This masterclass solves the fundamental dilemma facing every American driver today: the conflict between utility, status, and economic reality. We are going to analyze the data to show you how to identify the difference between a vehicle that is popular because of marketing and one that is popular because of engineering excellence. Whether you are looking at the reliability of Japanese imports, the raw power of domestic trucks, or the cutting-edge technology of the EV market, this series will give you the framework to evaluate the automotive landscape like a professional analyst. To understand where we are in 2026, we have to look at the historical trends that built the modern American garage. For the better part of the last century, the American automotive identity was defined by the Big Three: Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. In the post-World War II era, cars were symbols of freedom and upward mobility. However, the oil crises of the 1970s created a massive pivot point. This was the era where case studies show a dramatic shift in consumer behavior. As fuel prices skyrocketed, the massive gas-guzzling land yachts of Detroit began to lose their luster. This created a vacuum that was filled by ultra-efficient, highly reliable imports from brands like Toyota and Honda. This wasn't just a temporary change. It was a fundamental restructuring of the market that persists to this day. It established the reputation for longevity that allows models like the Toyota Camry and the Honda Civic to remain at the top of the sales charts decades later. However, the most fascinating case study in American automotive history is the rise of the light truck. In 1977, the Ford F-150 became the best-selling truck in America, and a few years later, it became the best-selling vehicle overall. It has held that title for nearly half a century. But why? To explain this, we have to look at the intersection of tax policy, marketing, and cultural psychology. The truckification of the United States was accelerated by regulations like the CAFE standards, which often placed lighter fuel economy burdens on trucks compared to cars. This incentivized manufacturers to push consumers toward larger vehicles. Simultaneously, Section 179 of the tax code provided potential outcomes where business owners could deduct the purchase price of heavy vehicles, making the high-end luxury truck a savvy business move rather than just a utility purchase. As we move into the modern era, the data shows a startling divergence. We are seeing a great thinning of the sedan market. Manufacturers like Ford have almost entirely abandoned the traditional car format in the US, focusing exclusively on crossovers, SUVs, and trucks. This shift is driven by consumer demand for higher seating positions, perceived safety, and versatile cargo space. Yet, if we look at historical trends of the last 5 years, the most significant disruption hasn't come from a new truck, but from a radical shift in propulsion. The Tesla Model Y has defied every historical precedent, climbing to the top of global sales charts by offering a blend of performance and software integration that traditional legacy automakers are still struggling to replicate. When we rank these vehicles, we are looking at three critical pillars: market penetration, retention value, and reliability metrics. Market penetration tells us what people are buying right now, but retention value tells us what those people think of those cars 5 years later. For example, a vehicle might sell 500,000 units in a year, but if the used market is flooded with them and the prices are bottoming out, that popularity is often a result of heavy fleet sales to rental companies rather than genuine consumer loyalty. Conversely, vehicles like the Toyota Tacoma or the Jeep Wrangler often show incredible price stability, sometimes retaining over 70% of their value after 3 years of ownership. We must also address the psychological component of popularity. In many parts of the United States, the vehicle you drive is a rolling resume. In the Midwest and the South, the heavy-duty pickup truck is the undisputed king. In coastal urban centers, the move toward electrification and compact luxury SUVs like the Lexus RX or the BMW X5 defines the landscape. These regional variations create a complex map of popularity that makes a national ranking a challenging but essential task for any informed consumer. In the segments to follow, we are going to break down the top 10 makes and models with surgical precision. We will examine the engineering behind the engines, the shift from physical buttons to massive touchscreens, and the rising cost of repairs in an era where a simple fender bender can total a car because of the expensive sensors hidden in the bumper. We will look at step-by-step details of how the Ford F-150 maintains its dominance through constant iteration, how the Toyota RAV4 became the default choice for the American family, and how the Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra work together to challenge the throne of the blue oval. We are going to explore the nuances of total cost of ownership, which factors in insurance premiums, fuel costs, and the often overlooked reality of depreciation. By looking at these case studies, you will see that the most popular car is not always the best car, but it is always a reflection of what America values at that specific moment in time. Prepare yourself because we are about to go deep into the data, the metal, and the money that drives the United States of America. To understand the current hierarchy of the American road in 2026, we must first define the metrics of dominance. In this deep dive, we are not just looking at raw sales figures from a single quarter. We are examining the synergy of historical trends, consumer sentiment, and the total cost of ownership that keeps certain nameplates cemented in the top 10, while others fade into obscurity. We begin our countdown with a vehicle that has defied the death of the sedan and maintained its status as the gold standard for the American entry-level professional. Coming in at number 10 is the Honda Civic. To understand why the Civic remains a titan in 2026, we need to look at a case study involving a young professional named John, who lives in a high-density urban environment like Austin, Texas. In 2026, John faces a landscape of high insurance premiums and volatile energy prices. While his peers might be drawn to flashy, larger SUVs, John's decision to stick with the Civic is grounded in historical trends of reliability. The Civic has transitioned from a basic economy car into a sophisticated tech hub. In 2026, the standard model includes advanced AI-driven driver assistance systems that were considered luxury features only 3 years ago. The step-by-step reason for its popularity starts with its engineering. Honda has perfected the balance between a small displacement turbocharged engine and a continuously variable transmission that no longer feels rubbery or disconnected. For John, this means a potential outcome of 36 miles per gallon in heavy stop-and-go traffic, a metric that many modern crossovers still struggle to hit. Furthermore, the 2026 Civic has maintained a high retention value. Data suggests that a 3-year-old Civic in 2026 still commands nearly 82% of its original MSRP on the secondary market. This is not an accident. It is the result of decades of consistent manufacturing, where the focus remained on the chassis rigidity and interior ergonomics. Imagine if John had chosen a competing compact from a manufacturer that exited the sedan market years ago. He would be facing a scarcity of parts and a diminishing pool of certified technicians. By choosing the Civic, he is tapping into a massive infrastructure of support that keeps his daily commute predictable and low stress. Moving to the number 9 spot, we find the perennial rival to the Civic, the Toyota Corolla. In 2026, the Corolla is no longer just a car. It is a diversified portfolio of mobility. The popularity of the Corolla nameplate is bolstered by the fact that Toyota has made the hybrid powertrain the standard across almost all trim levels. Consider the case study of Sarah, a healthcare worker in suburban Ohio. Sarah needs a vehicle that starts every single time, regardless of the fluctuating winter temperatures. In 2026, her Corolla Hybrid utilizes a fifth-generation planetary gear system that eliminates the need for traditional belts and pulleys, which are common failure points in older internal combustion engines. This mechanical simplicity leads to historical trends of 200,000-mile lifespans with minimal unscheduled maintenance. The data shows that Sarah's potential outcomes for long-term savings are significant when factoring in the reduced wear on brake pads due to regenerative braking systems. Step by step, the Corolla wins over the American public by being invisible. It does not demand attention, it provides utility. In 2026, the Corolla also benefits from the Corolla Cross, a subcompact SUV variant that shares the same DNA but offers the higher seating position that American consumers crave. This strategic move by Toyota allowed the Corolla nameplate to capture both the traditionalist who wants a low-slung sedan and the modern driver who wants a small footprint with SUV visibility. When you look at the sheer volume of Corollas on the road in 2026, you are looking at a population that prioritizes fiscal responsibility over social signaling. The competition at the number 8 spot brings us to the first heavy hitter in the midsize category, the Toyota Camry. For decades, the Camry was the best-selling passenger car in America, and in 2026, it remains a dominant force despite the overwhelming pressure from the SUV segment. To understand the Camry's staying power, we must analyze the historical trends of the American family unit. While the three-row SUV is the dream, the midsize sedan is often the reality that makes the most sense. The 2026 Camry has leaned heavily into a premium aesthetic, blurring the lines between a mass-market Toyota and a luxury Lexus. In our case study of a multi-generational household in California, the Camry serves as the primary vehicle for everything from school runs to medical appointments. The 2026 model features an ultra-efficient hybrid system that delivers over 50 miles per gallon in a vehicle that can comfortably seat 5 adults. The step-by-step appeal here is the total cost of ownership. When you factor in the 2026 interest rates for auto loans, which have stabilized but remain higher than the historical lows of the early 2020s, the Camry's lower entry price compared to a midsize SUV makes it a mathematically superior choice for many families. The potential outcomes of choosing a Camry over a comparable SUV include lower annual fuel costs by approximately $1,200 and insurance premiums that are typically 15% lower, due to the sedan's lower center of gravity and superior crash avoidance data. As we analyze these bottom 3 spots of the top 10, a clear pattern emerges. In 2026, the American consumer is returning to a sense of pragmatism. The era of cheap credit and massive, inefficient vehicles is facing a correction. People like John and Sarah are looking at the data. They are seeing that while a large truck might offer more capability, the daily reality of a 60-mile round-trip commute requires a different tool. However, as we move higher up the list, the narrative begins to shift. We are about to enter the territory of the heavyweights, where utility meets ego, and where the profit margins for manufacturers skyrocket. We are moving into the realm of the crossover kings and the pickup truck titans that define the American economy. What happens when the most popular vehicle in the country starts to cost more than the median home did 20 years ago? How does a brand like Chevrolet maintain its grip on the American heartland when the technology under the hood is changing faster than the consumers can adapt? The data for 2026 suggests that while the sedans are holding their ground, there is a massive wave of change coming from the number 7 spot upward. We are going to look at a brand that has managed to turn a rugged work vehicle into a status symbol that rivals European luxury cars. We will explore how a single model managed to capture the entire middle-class suburban market by offering a feature that most people didn't even know they needed until 2025. Stay tuned, because as we break into the top 7, the stakes for the American driver are about to get much, much higher. We are moving from the sensible choices to the vehicles that people are willing to go into 6-figure debt for. You might be surprised to see which household name is currently fighting for its life to stay in the top 5. As we cross the threshold from the sensible world of high-efficiency sedans into the high-stakes territory of crossovers and trucks, we encounter the true heavyweights of the 2026 American automotive market. This is where the competition becomes a battle of inches, and where the decision-making process for the average consumer shifts from pure necessity to a complex blend of lifestyle aspiration and technological integration. The number 7 spot on our list is occupied by a vehicle that has become the unofficial mascot of the American suburb, the Honda CR-V. To understand why the CR-V remains an absolute powerhouse in 2026, We have to look at a case study involving a typical suburban family in a high-precipitation region like the Pacific Northwest. Meet Mark, a middle manager who needs a vehicle that can handle the slick, hilly terrain of Seattle, while providing enough cargo volume for a weekend trip to the mountains. In 2026, the Honda CR-V has doubled down on its reputation for being the most balanced vehicle in its class. Historical trends show that the CR-V consistently ranks at the top for driver visibility and ease of use. Mark's 2026 model features the fourth-generation two-motor hybrid system, which has been refined to provide a potential outcome of seamless power delivery that mimics the smoothness of a fully electric vehicle without the range anxiety. The engineering deep dive reveals a direct-injection Atkinson cycle engine paired with two electric motors that are now arranged side by side. This configuration allows for a larger traction motor with increased torque output, which is crucial when Mark is trying to merge into fast-moving highway traffic with a full load of passengers. The 2026 data indicates that the CR-V hybrid now accounts for over 60% of the model's total sales, a testament to the American public's growing comfort with electrified drivetrains. Step by step, the CR-V wins on interior packaging. Honda's design philosophy of man maximum, machine minimum means that despite its compact exterior footprint, the CR-V offers 76 cubic feet of cargo space with the rear seats folded down. Imagine if Mark had chosen a luxury European rival. He might gain prestige, but he would likely sacrifice nearly 20% of that usable utility and face significantly higher maintenance costs once the warranty expires. However, the shadow looming over the CR-V is the undisputed king of the compact SUV segment, which brings us to the number 6 spot, the Toyota RAV4. In 2026, the RAV4 is not just a car. It is a global phenomenon that has defined the crossover era. To understand its dominance, we look at a case study of Elena, a freelance photographer in Phoenix, Arizona. Elena needs a vehicle that can survive the extreme heat of the desert, while providing enough ground clearance for the occasional dirt road trek to a remote shoot location. The 2026 RAV4 is built on the TNGA-K platform, which provides a low center of gravity and high body rigidity. This technical foundation allows the RAV4 to offer a ride quality that is both composed and durable. Elena's potential outcomes for reliability are bolstered by Toyota's decision to keep the mechanical components of the RAV4 relatively straightforward, compared to its more complex rivals. The historical trends of the RAV4 show an interesting evolution from a quirky two-door mini SUV in the 90s to the multi-trim behemoth it is today. In 2026, the RAV4 Prime, the plug-in hybrid variant, has become the most sought-after model in the lineup. It offers an estimated 42 miles of all-electric range, which covers the daily commute for a large percentage of the American workforce. Data from 2025 and early 2026 suggests that the resale value of a RAV4 Prime is nearly unprecedented, with some low-mileage examples selling for close to their original MSRP even after 2 years of use. This is driven by a supply-demand imbalance that Toyota has carefully managed. For Elena, the RAV4 represents a safe harbor for her capital. She knows that if she decides to upgrade in 3 years, the market for her used Toyota will be aggressive. Imagine if she had opted for a less established brand that was heavily discounting its vehicles to move inventory. The resulting depreciation would effectively increase her total cost of ownership by thousands of dollars. Now we move into the top 5. And this is where the narrative takes a dramatic turn into the world of full-size pickup trucks. Sitting at number 5 is the Ram 1500, a vehicle that is currently fighting a localized war for the soul of the American truck buyer. For years, Ram was the disruptor, winning over customers with a strategy centered on interior luxury and ride comfort that outperformed Ford and Chevrolet. In 2026, however, the Ram 1500 finds itself at a crossroads. Consider the case study of David, a small business owner in Dallas, Texas. David uses his truck as a mobile office. He needs the towing capacity to move equipment, but he spends 4 hours a day in the cabin, making the interior quality his top priority. The 2026 Ram 1500 has undergone a massive mechanical heart transplant. Historical trends of the last 20 years were defined by the roar of the Hemi V8, but in 2026, the V8 is gone, replaced by the Hurricane twin-turbo straight-six engine. This move was a response to tightening federal emissions standards and the need for better fleet-wide fuel efficiency. For David, the potential outcomes are mixed. On one hand, the Hurricane engine delivers more horsepower and significantly more torque than the old V8, offering a more effortless towing experience. On the other hand, there is a cultural resistance among traditional truck buyers who equate the V8 sound with reliability and power. Step by step, Ram is trying to overcome this by pushing the boundaries of cabin technology. The 2026 Tungsten trim features a 23-speaker Klipsch reference Premier audio system and 24-way power-adjustable massaging seats. This is no longer a work truck. It is a high-end luxury sanctuary that happens to have a bed in the back. But here is the catch that has analysts watching the 2026 data with bated breath. The price. The average transaction price for a well-equipped Ram 1500 has surged past the $75,000 mark. With interest rates hovering around 7%, David is looking at a monthly payment that exceeds the mortgage of a starter home in many parts of the country. This financial pressure is creating a cooling effect on the truck market that we haven't seen in over a decade. Ram is fighting for its life to stay in the top 5 by offering aggressive loyalty programs and diversifying into the Ramcharger, a unique plug-in hybrid truck that uses an onboard engine solely as a generator for the electric motors. This technology is a high-stakes gamble to see if truck buyers are willing to embrace a radical new drivetrain, if it means they can keep their size and power without the pain at the pump. As we look toward the final 4 spots on our list, the air gets even thinner. We are about to enter the territory of the true titans, the vehicles that move the needle of the entire U.S. economy. We are going to look at the 2 domestic giants that have been locked in a century-long blood feud for the number 1 spot. But before we get there, we have to talk about the massive upset that just occurred in the number 4 spot. A vehicle that didn't even exist 20 years ago has just leapfrogged over some of the most established names in history, fundamentally changing how we define a popular car in America. What happens when the best-selling vehicle in the world is also the most controversial one? And how did a company with 0 traditional dealerships manage to convince the American public to abandon the internal combustion engine in record numbers? The answer lies in the data of the number 4 spot, and it is going to challenge everything you think you know about brand loyalty in the United States. The number 4 spot on our list represents the single most significant disruption to the American automotive industry since the introduction of the assembly line. We are talking about the Tesla Model Y. In 2026, the Model Y has transitioned from a niche luxury product for early adopters into a ubiquitous sight in every American zip code, from the tech hubs of Silicon Valley to the rural outskirts of the Rust Belt. To understand how an electric crossover managed to outsell legendary nameplates like the Honda CR-V and the Toyota Camry, we must look at a case study involving Alex, a software engineer living in suburban Atlanta. Alex is part of a massive demographic shift in 2026. He is a parent who prioritizes safety, technology, and predictable monthly expenses. When Alex began his search for a new vehicle, he didn't go to a traditional dealership. He didn't spend 4 hours haggling with a salesperson over floor mats or nitrogen-filled tires. Instead, he spent 10 minutes on an app, placed a deposit, and waited for a delivery window. This direct-to-consumer model is a critical pillar of why Tesla maintains such a high volume of sales. By removing the friction and the perceived adversarial nature of the car buying process, Tesla has tapped into a modern consumer desire for efficiency and transparency. But the real story is in the data of the vehicle itself. The 2026 Tesla Model Y is a masterclass in vertical integration. Historical trends show that while legacy automakers were struggling to secure battery supplies and software talent, Tesla was already manufacturing its own cells and writing its own operating system. For Alex, the potential outcomes of this integration are tangible every day. Imagine if your current car could improve its braking distance or add new entertainment features while you slept in your bed. In 2026, this is the reality for Model Y owners. Through over-the-air updates, the vehicle Alex bought today will likely have more capabilities 2 years from now than it did on the day of delivery. This software-first approach has fundamentally changed the concept of vehicle depreciation. While traditional internal combustion vehicles suffer from the perception of becoming obsolete the moment a newer model year is released, the Model Y maintains a high retention value because its hardware is designed to be a platform for continuous software evolution. Let's look at the step-by-step economic reality of owning a Model Y in 2026. The initial purchase price is often offset by federal and state incentives that were expanded under the latest environmental policies. However, the true savings are found in the total cost of ownership. Alex's home in Atlanta is equipped with a Level 2 charger. Based on current electricity rates in 2026, Alex is paying the equivalent of approximately $1.20 per gallon of gasoline to fuel his Model Y. When you compare this to the fluctuating prices of mid-grade fuel, which have remained volatile due to global geopolitical shifts, the predictability of charging at home becomes a powerful psychological and financial incentive. Furthermore, the maintenance schedule of a Model Y in 2026 is almost non-existent compared to a traditional SUV. There are no oil changes, no spark plugs to replace, no timing belts to worry about, and no transmission fluid to flush. Because of regenerative braking, where the electric motor acts as a generator to slow the vehicle down, Alex's brake pads are projected to last over 100,000 miles. Data from 2025 maintenance case studies suggest that the average Model Y owner spends 65% less on unscheduled repairs over a 5-year period, compared to an owner of a comparable luxury internal combustion crossover. Then there is the supercharger network, which in 2026 has become the gold standard for long-distance travel. While other charging networks have struggled with reliability and fragmented payment systems, the Tesla network offers a seamless plug-and-charge experience. For Alex, taking a family road trip to Florida is no longer an exercise in range anxiety. The vehicle's navigation system automatically plots the route, tells him exactly which charging stalls are open, and even preconditions the battery for the fastest possible charging speed as he approaches the station. This ecosystem creates a massive barrier to entry for competitors. It is not just about building a car, it is about building the infrastructure that makes the car usable. However, the rise of the Model Y hasn't been without controversy, which is why it sits at number 4 rather than the top spot. In 2026, there is a growing debate regarding the repairability of these vehicles. Tesla's use of gigacastings, massive single-piece aluminum structures for the front and rear of the car, makes the vehicle lighter and cheaper to manufacture, but it can lead to potential outcomes where a seemingly minor collision results in the vehicle being declared a total loss by insurance companies. This has led to a spike in insurance premiums for some owners, a factor that savvy buyers like Alex have to weigh against the fuel savings. Additionally, the minimalist interior of the 2026 Model Y remains a polarizing point. By removing almost all physical buttons and stalks in favor of a central touchscreen and steering wheel buttons, Tesla has maximized production efficiency, but challenged the muscle memory of generations of drivers. Some case studies show that older drivers find this transition frustrating, leading them back to brands like Lexus or BMW that have retained more traditional controls. But despite these hurdles, the sheer volume of Model Ys on American roads in 2026 is undeniable. It has become the default choice for the American upper middle class, effectively ending the dominance of the luxury sedan and the midsize entry-level SUV. It is a rolling computer that offers performance figures that would have shamed a supercar 10 years ago, all while carrying a week's worth of groceries and 2 car seats. As we move from the number 4 spot into the top 3, we are entering the realm of the absolute titans of industry. We are leaving the world of the electric disruptor and returning to the bedrock of the American economy, the full-size pickup truck. The battle for the top 3 spots is a war of billions of dollars, where brand loyalty is passed down through generations like a family heirloom. In the next part, we are going to look at the number 3 spot, held by a vehicle that has spent the last 5 years undergoing a massive identity crisis. It is a truck that is trying to be everything to everyone. A rugged workhorse for the job site and a high-tech luxury vehicle for the suburbs. We will dive into the engineering of the Chevrolet Silverado and how it uses a sophisticated multi-engine strategy to fight off the electrification wave. How does a brand built on the roar of a V8 convince its most loyal customers to embrace a future of silence? And what happens when the number 2 spot is held by a vehicle that shares almost all of its components with the number 3 spot, yet commands a completely different demographic? The complexity of the General Motors truck strategy is about to be revealed, and it shows exactly how the biggest players in Detroit plan to stay on top in a world that is moving faster than ever before. Prepare for a deep dive into the chrome, the steel, and the high-margin world of the American truck kings. To understand why the number 3 spot on our list is a masterpiece of American engineering and marketing, we have to look at the Chevrolet Silverado. In 2026, the Silverado is not just a pickup truck. It is a diversified industrial asset that caters to everyone from the fleet manager at a massive construction firm to the weekend warrior towing a 24-foot boat to the lake. To see this in action, we look at the case study of Marcus, a general contractor based in Nashville, Tennessee. Marcus has owned 4 Silverados over the last 20 years, and his 2026 model represents the culmination of historical trends that have favored high-torque, high-efficiency power plants. In 2026, the Chevrolet Silverado has successfully navigated the transition toward more complex engine options. While the legendary 5.3-liter and 6.2-liter V8 engines remain available for those who demand the traditional rumble of Detroit iron, the real story of the Silverado's dominance in the 2026 data is the 3.0-liter Duramax turbo diesel. Marcus chose this engine for its potential outcomes in long-range efficiency. In 2026, this inline-six diesel engine has been refined to produce 305 horsepower and a staggering 495 pound-feet of torque at just 1,500 revolutions per minute. This means Marcus can tow his heavy equipment trailers with a sense of effortless power that gas engines struggle to replicate without high RPM stress. The step-by-step engineering of this engine includes high-pressure common rail fuel injection and a variable geometry turbocharger that eliminates lag, providing a linear power curve that makes highway merging a non-event. But the 2026 Silverado is also winning on the technology front. Imagine if you are Marcus, and you have to back a trailer into a tight job site surrounded by expensive equipment. In 2026, the Silverado features an enhanced version of the transparent trailer view. By utilizing a suite of up to 14 camera views, the software digitally stitches together an image that makes the trailer effectively disappear on the 13.4-inch infotainment screen. This is a game-changer for solo operators and has become a primary reason why Chevrolet is capturing market share from competitors who lack this level of software integration. Furthermore, the 2026 Silverado offers Super Cruise, the industry's first true hands-free driver assistance technology that now works while towing. For Marcus, the potential outcomes of a 4-hour drive to a remote job site are significantly less fatigue and increased focus on his arrival tasks. The step-by-step breakdown of the Silverado's popularity must also include its interior evolution. Historical trends of the early 2020s saw Chevrolet criticized for plastic-heavy cabins, but the 2026 models have corrected this course entirely. The high country trim level now features authentic open-pore wood, perforated leather seating surfaces, and a level of sound insulation that rivals European luxury sedans. This has allowed Chevrolet to tap into the high-margin luxury market, where the average transaction price now exceeds $80,000. Data from the first quarter of 2026 shows that the Silverado High Country and ZR2 off-road trims account for nearly 40% of consumer-level sales, proving that the American truck buyer is willing to invest in premium features if the utility remains uncompromised. Now, as we move into the number 2 spot, we find ourselves looking at the Chevrolet Silverado's sophisticated sibling, the GMC Sierra. While the Silverado and Sierra share the same chassis and many mechanical components, the GMC Sierra has carved out a unique psychological space in the American market that allows it to claim the number 2 position in our rankings. To understand the Sierra's appeal in 2026, we look at the case study of Chloe, an equestrian and professional developer in North Carolina. Chloe needs a vehicle that can pull a horse trailer with precision on the weekends, but look appropriate at a high-stakes business meeting on Monday morning. The 2026 GMC Sierra Denali Ultimate is the pinnacle of this strategy. Imagine if your truck bed was made of carbon fiber. In 2026, the Carbon Pro bed has become a signature feature of the Sierra, offering a level of durability and weight savings that traditional steel or aluminum beds cannot match. For Chloe, this means her truck is virtually immune to the dents, scratches, and corrosion that usually plague work vehicles. The technical advantage here is a weight reduction of approximately 60 pounds, which may seem small, but when combined with the 2026 aerodynamic refinements, it contributes to a noticeable improvement in overall fuel economy and payload capacity. The GMC Sierra's popularity is also driven by the Multi-Pro tailgate. This is a 6-function tailgate that can transform into a step, a work surface, or a load stop. Step by step, this piece of hardware changes how a driver interacts with their vehicle. For Chloe, it means she can easily step into the bed to secure her gear, or use the integrated kicker audio system in the tailgate during social gatherings at the stables. The historical trends of GMC suggest that their customers are looking for professional-grade equipment that feels intentional rather than utilitarian. This brand positioning has been so successful that the Denali sub-brand alone would be one of the most successful luxury brands in the world if it were a standalone company. In 2026, the Sierra is also making massive strides in the electric space. The Sierra EV Denali Edition 1 has hit the streets with a reported range of over 400 miles. This is a critical psychological threshold for the American truck buyer. By utilizing the Ultium battery platform, GMC has created a vehicle with a lower center of gravity and nearly instantaneous torque delivery. The data shows that many Sierra owners are transitioning from internal combustion to electric more quickly than Silverado owners, partly due to the higher average income of the GMC demographic and their desire for the latest technological status symbols. When we look at the combined market share of the Silverado and the Sierra, General Motors technically sells more full-size trucks than any other manufacturer. However, they are listed separately here because they represent two different American archetypes. The Silverado is the backbone of the workforce, the tool that builds the infrastructure. The Sierra is the reward for the work, the professional-grade luxury office that can still get dirty when the situation demands it. The potential outcomes of this two-pronged strategy have allowed General Motors to maintain a stranglehold on the high-profit truck segment, funding their massive multi-billion-dollar pivot toward electrification. But as dominant as the GM twins are, they are still looking up at the summit. The number one spot on our list has been occupied by the same nameplate for nearly 50 years, but the gap is closing. In 2026, the battle for the top position is being fought not just in the showrooms, but in the software code and the battery manufacturing plants. We have seen the rise of the sedan-killing crossovers, the electric disruptors, and the luxury truck titans. But there is one vehicle that remains the absolute baseline of the American automotive experience. Coming up in the next part, we are going to break down the number one best-selling vehicle in the United States. It is a model that has become so integrated into the American identity that it is often used as a bellwether for the health of the entire national economy. We will examine how this legendary vehicle has managed to stay ahead of the curve by embracing aluminum construction, small displacement turbocharging, and a revolutionary approach to fleet management. What happens when the king of the road faces its most significant challenge yet? How does the Ford F-Series plan to stay at the top in a world where the Tesla Model Y is breathing down its neck? The final reveal of our ranking is about to uncover the secrets of the most successful vehicle program in history, and the data might just change how you look at every truck you see on the highway. We are entering the final stage of the ranking, where legacy meets the future, and only one can claim the throne. The throne of the American automotive landscape is not just a position on a sales chart. It is a permanent fixture of the national identity. For 49 consecutive years, the Ford F-Series has remained the best-selling truck in America, and for over 4 decades, it has been the best-selling vehicle overall. In 2026, this dominance is not a matter of luck, but the result of an aggressive, multi-front engineering strategy that has allowed Ford to capture every possible subsegment of the truck-buying public. To understand why this vehicle occupies the number one spot, we look at the case study of Jackson, a ranch manager and independent contractor operating in the high plains of Wyoming. Jackson represents the core of the F-Series legacy. He requires a vehicle that can endure sub-zero temperatures, tow 12,000 pounds of livestock equipment, and function as a mobile command center in areas where cellular service is a luxury. His 2026 Ford F-150 is the product of historical trends that began in 2015, when Ford made the controversial decision to switch from a traditional steel body to a high-strength, military-grade aluminum alloy. At the time, critics predicted that repair costs would skyrocket, and that the truck would lose its rugged reputation. However, the data from the last decade shows a different potential outcome. By shedding 700 pounds of body weight, Ford was able to reinvest that mass into a beefier frame, larger brakes, and higher towing capacities. For Jackson, this means his truck has a higher payload-to-weight ratio than any previous generation, allowing him to carry more equipment without exceeding the gross vehicle weight rating. Step by step, the F-150 wins on powertrain diversity. While competitors have often leaned on a single hero engine, Ford offers an array of choices that cater to specific use cases. Jackson utilizes the 3.5-liter PowerBoost hybrid. This isn't a hybrid designed solely for fuel economy. It is a hybrid designed for job site dominance. The technical brilliance of the PowerBoost system lies in the integration of a 35-kilowatt electric motor directly into the 10-speed automatic transmission. This provides instantaneous torque to help get heavy trailers moving from a dead stop, a scenario where internal combustion engines are at their least efficient. Furthermore, the 2026 PowerBoost includes the Pro Power onboard system, which offers 7.2 kilowatts of exportable power. Imagine if the power grid in Jackson's remote town fails during a winter storm. In 2026, his F-150 isn't just a vehicle, it is a mobile power plant. Through the outlets in the bed, he can run a circular saw, a space heater, and a refrigerator simultaneously for up to 85 hours on a full tank of gas. This feature has become a primary driver for Ford's popularity among tradespeople and outdoor enthusiasts alike. It transforms the vehicle from a cost center into a productivity tool. Case studies from the 2024 and 2025 hurricane seasons in the Southeast showed that F-150 owners were often the only people in their neighborhoods with functioning medical equipment and refrigeration, a factor that has created a level of brand loyalty that no marketing campaign could ever buy. But the F-Series dominance in 2026 is also bolstered by its high-performance halo models. The F-150 Raptor and the Raptor serve as the aspirational peaks of the lineup. These vehicles utilize sophisticated Fox live valve shocks and long-travel suspension systems that allow them to traverse desert terrain at speeds that would disintegrate a standard vehicle. While the sales volume of the Raptor is lower than the work-oriented XL or XLT trims, the halo effect is massive. It establishes Ford as the leader in off-road engineering, a reputation that trickles down to the FX4 off-road packages found on more affordable models. Data suggests that consumers are more likely to purchase a base-level truck if they believe the brand is capable of building a world-class performance machine. We must also address the F-150 Lightning, the fully electric version of the truck. In 2026, the Lightning has moved past its initial growing pains and has found a solid footing among fleet buyers and suburban homeowners. The 2026 Lightning utilizes a new battery chemistry that offers improved cold weather performance and faster charging cycles. For a fleet manager overseeing a crew in an urban environment like Chicago, the Lightning offers a potential outcome of significantly lower operating costs. Without the need for oil changes, transmission repairs, or traditional fuel, the Lightning can save a business thousands of dollars per unit over a 5-year life cycle. The inclusion of the Mega Power Frunk, a 400-liter front trunk with power outlets, has redefined how people use the space usually occupied by an engine. It provides a lockable, weatherproof area for expensive tools, addressing a major pain point for contractors who previously had to choose between an open bed or a bulky toolbox. The F-Series also remains number one because of its dominance in the Super Duty segment. For users who need to tow 30,000 pounds or more, the F-250 and F-350 with the 6.7-liter Power-Stroke diesel are the undisputed kings of the heavy-duty world. In 2026, these trucks feature advanced telematics that allow fleet owners to track every metric from tire pressure to idle time in real time. This data-driven approach to truck management ensures that the F-Series remains the preferred choice for the industries that build the American infrastructure: construction, energy, and agriculture. When we look at the historical trends of the F-Series, we see a vehicle that is constantly cannibalizing its own success to stay ahead. Ford was the first to embrace small displacement turbocharging with the EcoBoost line, the first to go all in on aluminum, and one of the first to bring a credible electric truck to market. This willingness to take risks while maintaining the core utility of the truck is why it sits at the top of the 2026 rankings. However, being number one makes you a target. The margin between the F-Series and its closest competitors is shifting as the market becomes more fragmented. As we conclude our ranking of the top 10 most popular vehicles in the USA, we have seen a landscape defined by a tension between tradition and technology. We've seen the rise of the Tesla Model Y as a software powerhouse, the unwavering reliability of the Toyota RAV4, and the sheer brute force of the American pickup truck. But the story of the American car market in 2026 isn't just about what is at the top. It is about what is missing from the list. In the next part, we are going to look at the honorable mentions, the vehicles that are currently exploding in popularity and are predicted to break into the top 10 by 2027. We will look at a Korean manufacturer that has gone from a budget brand to a design leader, threatening the dominance of the Japanese giants. We will also investigate the hidden market of the used car world, where a specific 10-year-old SUV is currently seeing a massive surge in demand, driving prices up to levels that defy logic. Why are people paying $20,000 for a vehicle with 200,000 miles? The answer involves a specific subculture of American drivers who are rejecting modern technology in favor of mechanical simplicity. We are going to dive into the world of overlanding and how it is reshaping what Americans want from their vehicles. The data is about to get even more interesting as we look beyond the sales charts and into the emerging trends that will define the next decade. To understand the future of the American road, we must look at the names that are currently clawing their way toward the top 10, fueled by radical design shifts and a fundamental misunderstanding of what the average driver actually wants. While the Ford F-Series and the Toyota RAV4 sit comfortably on their thrones in 2026, there is a silent metamorphosis happening in the Korean automotive sector that has traditional giants like Honda and Nissan looking over their shoulders. we are witnessing the rise of the Korean powerhouse, specifically the tandem of Hyundai and Kia. To see this transition in real time, consider the case study of Maya, a high-level creative director living in Austin, Texas. In 2026, Maya represents the new American tastemaker. She isn't interested in the historical prestige of a European badge, nor is she satisfied with the utilitarian aesthetic of traditional domestic brands. She chose the 2026 Kia EV9, a three-row electric SUV that has effectively disrupted the luxury segment. The data behind this shift is staggering. Historical trends from 2020 to 2025 showed Hyundai and Kia moving from budget-friendly alternatives to design-led innovators. Maya's EV9 is built on the EGMP platform, a dedicated electric architecture that utilizes an 800-volt charging system. In 2026, this is a massive technical advantage. While many competitors are still utilizing 400-volt systems that require 45 minutes to an hour for a significant charge, Maya can pull into a high-speed charging station and go from 10% to 80% battery capacity in approximately 18 minutes. Step by step, the Korean manufacturers have out-engineered their rivals by focusing on charging speed, rather than just raw range. But it is the imagine-if scenario that truly sells this vehicle to the 2026 public. Imagine if your car wasn't just a transport device, but a literal battery for your life. Maya utilizes the vehicle-to-load or V2L technology in her Kia. During a local grid outage in Austin, she was able to run her home office, including her high-end computers and a portable air conditioner, directly from the car's charging port. This utility, combined with a design language that looks like it was pulled from a science fiction film, has propelled the EV9 and its sibling, the Hyundai Ioniq 9, into the spotlight. Potential outcomes for these brands suggest they will break into the top 10 sales list by 2027, as they are capturing the younger, tech-focused demographic that finds the traditional SUV format boring and outdated. However, as we look at emerging trends in 2026, we see a counter-movement that is equally powerful: the analog rebound. This is where we find the most fascinating data in the used car market. While new car sales are dominated by screens and software, there is a massive surge in demand for what enthusiasts call the last of the mechanicals. To understand this, we look at the case study of Kevin, an outdoor enthusiast in Denver, Colorado. In 2026, Kevin did something that would have seemed counterintuitive 5 years ago. He sold his tech-heavy 2023 crossover and purchased a 10-year-old Lexus GX 460. Why are people like Kevin driving the prices of decade-old SUVs to record highs? The answer lies in historical trends regarding reliability and the rejection of subscription-based features. In 2026, many new vehicles require a monthly fee to access heated seats or advanced navigation. Kevin's Lexus, however, is a masterpiece of mechanical simplicity. It features a naturally aspirated 4.6-liter V8 engine and a traditional 6-speed automatic transmission. There are no turbos to fail, no complex mild hybrid systems to troubleshoot, and most importantly, no over-the-air updates that can change the vehicle's interface overnight. The data shows that in 2026, the resale value of body-on-frame SUVs like the Lexus GX, the Toyota 4Runner, and the pre-2024 Land Cruisers has decoupled from traditional depreciation curves. These vehicles are being treated as hedges against the perceived fragility of modern automotive electronics. Step by step, Kevin has modified his Lexus for overlanding, a trend that has evolved from a niche hobby into a multi-billion-dollar industry. He has added a suspension lift, all-terrain tires, and a rooftop tent. Imagine if you had a vehicle that could comfortably commute to work during the week, but was capable of traversing the Rubicon Trail on the weekend without throwing a single sensor error code. That is the dream driving the analog rebound. The potential outcomes for this market include a permanent floor for the pricing of these specific models, making them some of the best automotive investments of the last decade, even as they consume more fuel than their modern counterparts. We also have to discuss the Maverick effect. In 2026, the Ford Maverick has single-handedly revived the compact truck segment, a category that many analysts thought was dead. Consider the case study of Sam, a delivery driver and hobbyist woodworker in Portland, Oregon. Sam doesn't need the massive towing capacity of an F-150, nor does he want to navigate a full-size truck through narrow city streets. The 2026 Maverick Hybrid offers him 40 miles per gallon in the city and a bed large enough to haul sheets of plywood. The technical success of the Maverick is its unibody construction, which allows it to ride like a car while providing the utility of a truck. Historical trends showed that as mid-sized trucks like the Tacoma and Colorado grew larger and more expensive, a vacuum was created at the entry level. Ford filled that vacuum perfectly. In 2026, the Maverick has become the gateway drug for the Ford brand, bringing in first-time truck buyers who previously drove Civics or Corollas. The data suggests that over 60% of Maverick buyers are new to the truck segment entirely. This is a massive win for Ford's long-term ecosystem, as these buyers are likely to trade up to an F-150 as their needs grow. But as we look at these honorable mentions and emerging trends, a dark cloud is gathering on the horizon for the 2026 consumer. We have talked about the most popular cars, the tech-heavy EVs, and the rugged analog survivors. But we haven't talked about the hidden tax of modern car ownership. In the next part, we are going to dive into the reliability deep dive. We will expose the truth about maintenance costs in 2026, where a simple cracked headlight on a popular SUV can now cost upwards of $3,000 to replace because of integrated LED arrays and radar sensors. We will look at which brands are secretly bleeding their customers dry with proprietary repair tactics, and which manufacturers are actually standing by their longevity claims. Why is a specific European luxury brand currently facing a massive class action lawsuit over its planned obsolescence in engine timing components? And which surprising budget brand actually has the lowest cost of ownership over 10 years? The answers will challenge everything you think you know about buying for the long haul. We are moving past the glossy brochures and into the service bays, where the real winners and losers are decided. Prepare for the most controversial part of this masterclass yet, as we reveal the data that dealerships don't want you to see. The reality of the American service bay in 2026 is a far cry from the grease-stained garages of the 20th century. Today, your mechanic is as likely to reach for a laptop as he is a wrench, and this technological shift has birthed a phenomenon we call the hidden tax of modern car ownership. While the sales figures we have discussed tell you what people are buying, they don't tell you who is actually keeping their vehicle for 10 years without going bankrupt. To understand this, we need to look at the case study of Michael, a father of 3 in suburban Chicago, who drives one of the most popular midsize SUVs in the country. Michael recently experienced what seemed like a minor inconvenience: a low-speed bump in a grocery store parking lot. In 2010, this would have resulted in a $200 plastic bumper cover and a Saturday afternoon of DIY work. But in 2026, Michael's vehicle is equipped with a Level 2 Plus advanced driver assistance system. That minor plastic scuff affected a millimeter-wave radar sensor hidden behind the emblem and 2 ultrasonic sensors in the bumper fascia. The potential outcomes of this 5-mile-per-hour tap were staggering. The bill came to $4,800. This is because in 2026, you cannot simply replace the plastic. You must perform a static and dynamic calibration of the entire sensor suite. This process requires specialized targets, a perfectly level floor, and nearly 4 hours of labor billed at the 2026 national average of $220 per hour. This is the first pillar of the hidden tax: the integration of fragile electronics into high-impact areas. Historical trends show that as manufacturers chase higher safety ratings from the IIHS, they are packing the front and rear of vehicles with thousands of dollars of sensitive equipment. For Michael, his insurance premium spiked the following year because the actuarial data for his specific model showed that repair costs were 40% higher than the industry average. This is a step-by-step erosion of the value proposition of a popular car. If you are looking at a top 10 vehicle, you must investigate the placement of its sensors. Brands like Subaru have moved their eyesight sensors inside the cabin, behind the windshield, which significantly lowers the cost of minor fender benders. Conversely, many luxury and domestic brands continue to place their most expensive tech right in the line of fire. The second pillar of this deep dive is the modular lighting trap. Imagine if a single light bulb in your house blew out, and the electrician told you that you had to replace the entire ceiling and the wiring for the whole room. In 2026, that is the reality for almost every popular vehicle equipped with LED matrix headlights. Consider the case study of Emily, a nurse in Southern California driving a popular European luxury crossover. One of the LED daytime running light strips in her left headlight assembly flickered and died. There was no way to replace the single diode. The entire headlight unit, which includes integrated cooling fans and a dedicated control module, had to be replaced. The cost for the part alone was $3,200. Data from 2025 and 2026 indicates that the failure rate of these complex lighting units is higher than the traditional halogen bulbs of the past, despite the marketing claims of lifetime durability. When these vehicles hit the 7-year mark and exit their factory warranties, the secondary market is going to face a crisis. A vehicle worth $15,000 on the used market could suddenly require $6,000 in lighting repairs just to pass a state inspection. This is why we see a divergence in retention value. Brands like Toyota and Mazda are increasingly favored by long-term owners because they have moved toward more serviceable LED designs, whereas certain luxury brands have doubled down on unserviceable modules that force owners back to the dealership. Now we must address the most controversial trend of 2026. Feature as a service or FaaS. This is the subscription model for hardware you already own. Imagine if Michael wanted to use the heated seats in his truck during a Chicago blizzard, but found them locked behind a $20 per month paywall. While several manufacturers face massive public backlash for this in 2024, the data from 2026 shows that the practice has simply become more subtle. Many popular makes now offer performance packages, or advanced navigation, that are pre-installed in the hardware, but require a recurring digital key to function. This has created a nightmare for the used car market. When Michael goes to sell his truck in 2029, the next owner may find that half the features listed on the window sticker are deactivated because the subscription didn't transfer. This software-defined gatekeeping is a major factor in our 2026 rankings, as consumers are beginning to reward brands that reject this model. In terms of pure mechanical reliability, our deep dive into 2026 service data reveals a surprising winner. While the big three Japanese brands still dominate, Mazda has quietly moved into the top tier by doing something radical, refusing to change. While almost every other manufacturer has moved to complex continuously variable transmissions or 10-speed automatics with dual clutch systems, Mazda has stuck with a perfected, heavy-duty 6-speed automatic and naturally aspirated engines. Step by step, this old-school engineering approach has led to lower failure rates in the 2026 data. Owners are reporting that their total cost of maintenance over 100,000 miles is nearly 30% lower than owners of turbocharged, CVT-equipped rivals. But as we look at the service bays, we also see the rise of the proprietary repair wall. In 2026, a movement for the right to repair has gained massive steam in the US, but some manufacturers are fighting back with encrypted software that prevents independent shops from resetting even basic maintenance lights. This is the ultimate hidden tax. If you live in a rural area where the nearest authorized dealer is 2 hours away, the cost of ownership isn't just the repair bill. It's the lost time and towing fees. As we analyze the vehicles that have made our top 10, we see a clear divide between those built for the first owner and those built for the long haul. The Ford F-150 and the Toyota RAV4 have maintained their spots precisely because they have managed to balance cutting-edge tech with a service infrastructure that doesn't alienate the independent mechanic. But the question remains, as cars become more like iPhones and less like machines, will we ever see another vehicle that can last 20 years on the road? The answer might lie in a segment of the market we haven't touched yet. We have talked about the new kings and the hidden costs, but there is a massive underground economy in the US car market that is currently exploding. In the next part, we are going to look at the dead brands that are seeing a massive revival. Why are people in 2026 suddenly hunting for specific models from brands that no longer exist? We will investigate the cult of the survivor car and how a specific type of engine from the early 2000s has become the most sought-after piece of iron in America. And more importantly, we will look at the depreciation cliff, the specific moment when a popular modern car loses its value so fast it becomes a zombie vehicle. If you are planning on buying a car in the next 12 months, the data in Part 9 is the difference between a sound financial move and a total loss. We are about to look at the cars that are currently winning the depreciation war, and the results are not what you expect. To understand the concept of the depreciation cliff in 2026, we have to look at the cold, hard mathematics of the secondary market. In 2026, the average price of a new vehicle has stabilized at an all-time high, but the gap between what you pay at the dealership and what a wholesaler will offer you 3 years later has widened into a canyon. This is where we see the difference between a savvy financial move and a total loss. Consider the case study of Brenda, a corporate consultant in Charlotte, North Carolina. In early 2023, Brenda purchased a high-end, tech-saturated luxury SUV for $95,000. At the time, it was the pinnacle of status and performance. However, by mid-2026, Brenda discovered that her vehicle was only worth $44,000 on the trade-in market. This is a loss of over 50% in just 36 months. Why did this happen? Historically, luxury vehicles have always depreciated faster than economy cars. But in 2026, a new factor has accelerated the decline: software obsolescence. Brenda's SUV was built around a proprietary computing architecture that was state-of-the-art in 2023, but by 2026, the manufacturer had moved to a new chipset that offered 4 times the processing power. Because her vehicle's hardware cannot be upgraded, it is effectively stuck in the past, unable to run the latest AI-driven autonomous features or high-resolution infotainment updates. For the second owner, this makes the vehicle feel like an out-of-date smartphone. The potential outcomes for Brenda are clear. She is trapped in a cycle of negative equity where she owes more on her loan than the car is worth, a scenario that analysts call being underwater. Now imagine if Brenda had taken a different path. Imagine if she had looked at the historical trends of the Toyota Tacoma or the Jeep Wrangler. In 2026, the data shows that these vehicles often retain over 75% of their value after 3 years. The reason is a combination of mechanical simplicity and a cult-like following. The Tacoma, specifically the 2024 and newer models, has benefited from a transition to a turbocharged hybrid powertrain that buyers in 2026 have finally come to trust. Because these vehicles are built on a body-on-frame architecture that is inherently durable, they are viewed as assets rather than consumables. Step by step, the Tacoma wins the depreciation war by remaining relevant to the third and fourth owner, who value the physical capability of the truck over the version number of its operating system. But the most fascinating development in the 2026 market is what we call the dead brand revival. This is the search for vehicles from manufacturers that no longer exist or specific models that were discontinued years ago. This trend is driven by a desire for extreme reliability and the rejection of modern software-gated features. Enter Tyler, a mechanical engineer in Ohio who has spent 6 months hunting for a specific vehicle from the early 2000s, a Buick Park Avenue Ultra. To the untrained eye, this looks like a grandfather car. To Tyler, it is a fortress. This vehicle is powered by the legendary 3800 Series 2V6 engine. In the world of 2026, where engines are becoming smaller, more complex, and more stressed by high-pressure turbocharging, the 3800 engine is considered the holy grail of internal combustion. It features a 90-degree V6 configuration with a cast-iron block and a simple pushrod valve train. Step by step, the 3800 engine avoids the failure points of modern engines. There are no overhead cams to wear out, no complex timing chains with plastic guides that fail at 80,000 miles, and no direct injection systems that suffer from carbon buildup on the intake valves. Historical trends show that with basic maintenance, these engines can easily exceed 300,000 miles. In 2026, Tyler is part of a growing subculture that is buying up these survivor cars, performing a one-time refresh of the intake manifold gaskets, and then driving them for another decade with almost zero unscheduled maintenance costs. This is a rejection of the modern automotive life cycle. While Brenda is losing $50,000 in depreciation, Tyler is driving a vehicle he bought for $6,000 that is actually increasing in value as more people realize the sheer durability of this specific engine. This brings us to the phenomenon of the zombie vehicle. In 2026, we are seeing thousands of popular cars from the 2020 to 2022 model years that are mechanically sound but electronically dead. These are vehicles where a main control module or a primary infotainment screen has failed, because the manufacturer has stopped supporting the software or because the part is on a permanent backorder. The vehicle becomes a lawn ornament. The cost to replace a single central computer in some of these popular models can exceed $6,000. When the car is only worth $12,000, the math of repair no longer makes sense. This is the hidden risk of buying a tech-heavy popular car in 2026. You are not just buying a car. You are buying a subscription to a platform that might be abandoned by the manufacturer in 5 years. However, there is a way to win this game. The data from 2026 points toward a specific group of vehicles that we call the depreciation hedge. These are cars like the Honda Civic Type R or the Toyota GR Supra. Because these vehicles are produced in limited numbers and represent the last era of driver-focused, manual transmission performance, they have defied all historical trends of depreciation. In many cases, these vehicles are worth more in 2026 than they were when they left the showroom in 2023. This isn't about getting rich. It's about the preservation of capital. By choosing a vehicle that has a built-in scarcity and a passionate enthusiast base, The owner can enjoy the vehicle for years and then exit the ownership experience with their initial investment virtually intact. As we look at the ranking of the most popular car makes and models in the USA, we have to recognize that popularity is a double-edged sword. A car that is popular today because of low lease payments can become a liability tomorrow, when the market is flooded with used examples, driving the price into the dirt. But a car that is popular because of engineering excellence and long-term utility will always find a buyer. We have explored the titans of the industry, the electric disruptors, the hidden taxes of repair, and the secrets of the depreciation cliff. We have seen how characters like Brenda, Tyler, and James navigate a market that is more complex than ever before. But we have one final task. We have looked at the top 10 list, the honorable mentions, and the reliable survivors. Now it is time to reveal the ultimate conclusion. In the final part of this masterclass, we are going to synthesize all of this data into a single definitive framework. We are going to reveal the one specific vehicle that, according to the 2026 data, is the objectively best choice for the average American family when you factor in safety, reliability, depreciation, and total cost of ownership. This isn't a truck, it's not a luxury SUV, and it might not even be the most exciting car on the list. But the data doesn't lie. We will also look at the massive industry prediction for 2027 that is currently sending shockwaves through the headquarters of Ford and Toyota. A new player is about to enter the US market that could render this entire list obsolete within 24 months. The final reveal is moments away, and it will change the way you think about your next purchase. Stay with us for the final part of the ranking, where the true winner of the American road is finally crowned. The synthesis of every data point we have analyzed throughout this masterclass leads us to a single, inescapable conclusion regarding the hierarchy of the American road in 2026. To crown the true winner, we cannot rely solely on the raw sales volume of the Ford F-Series, nor can we look only at the disruptive technology of the Tesla Model Y. We must look at the intersection of long-term utility, financial preservation, and mechanical resilience. When we aggregate the 2026 data, the vehicle that emerges as the objectively superior choice for the vast majority of the American public is the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. To understand why this vehicle occupies the summit of our analytical framework, we look at the final case study of this series. James, a middle-class professional living in the Chicago suburbs. James represents the 2026 consumer who has been burned by the volatility of the used car market and the rising costs of insurance. James needs a vehicle that performs three distinct functions. It must be a tax-efficient asset, a reliable life support system in extreme weather, and a hedge against energy price fluctuations. The 2026 RAV4 Hybrid achieves this through a technical architecture that Toyota has spent 3 decades perfecting. The historical trends of the Toyota Hybrid Synergy Drive provide a case study in engineering incrementalism. While other manufacturers were gambling billions on unproven solid-state batteries or complex multi-turbo internal combustion engines, Toyota refined the planetary gear transmission. In 2026, this system has no traditional starter, no alternator, and no drive belts. Step by step, Toyota has removed the most common points of failure that plague vehicles after the 5-year mark. For James, the potential outcomes of this simplicity are reflected in his maintenance log. Data from 2025 shows that the average RAV4 Hybrid owner spends 42% less on repair labor over a 10-year period compared to an owner of a turbocharged compact SUV from a domestic or European brand. But the real victory for the RAV4 Hybrid in 2026 is its performance on the depreciation curve. Imagine if you could buy a vehicle today and know, with a high degree of statistical certainty, exactly what it will be worth in 2031. Based on historical trends of the last 5 years, the RAV4 Hybrid maintains an 84% retention value after 36 months. In an era where the average vehicle loses nearly half its value the moment the warranty expires, the RAV4 acts as a store of value. James isn't just buying a car, he is parking his capital in a highly liquid asset. If he needs to sell his vehicle in 2028, he knows there is a massive secondary market of buyers who prioritize fuel economy and reliability above all else. This liquidity is a critical component of why the RAV4 remains the king of the suburban landscape. However, we must address the 2027 prediction that is currently sending shockwaves through the industry. While Toyota and Ford sit atop the current rankings, a new phenomenon known as the ultra-low-cost disruption is looming on the horizon. Data indicates that by the first quarter of 2027, A new wave of modular electric vehicles, potentially imported through revised trade agreements or manufactured in high-efficiency plants in Mexico, will enter the U.S. market with a target price point of under $20,000. These are not the budget cars of the past. They are software-defined vehicles with ranges exceeding 300 miles. Imagine if a vehicle appeared on the market that offered the tech of a Tesla and the price of a 20-year-old used Honda. This is the 2027 disruptor, and it is the reason why legacy brands are currently engaging in massive cost-cutting measures. We are seeing a historical trend where the barrier to entry for automotive manufacturing is collapsing. The data suggests that by 2028, the top 10 list we have just analyzed could look entirely different, with brands that currently have zero presence in the United States claiming 30% of the market share. For the 2026 buyer, this creates a high-stakes decision-making environment. Do you stick with the proven reliability of the RAV4 or the F-150, or do you wait for the 2027 wave? Our framework for navigating this choice involves 3 specific steps. Step 1 is the utility audit. You must analyze your actual driving needs versus your aspirational ones. If 95% of your driving is a 20-mile commute, the $90,000 truck is a financial drain, not a tool. Step 2 is the depreciation math. Before signing a contract, you must look at the 3-year historical resale value of that specific trim level. If the data shows a drop of more than 40%, you are essentially paying a luxury tax for the privilege of driving a new car. Step 3 is the tech lifecycle check. In 2026, a car is a computer on wheels. You must ask the dealer for the projected software support window. If the manufacturer cannot provide a roadmap for over-the-air updates for at least 7 years, the vehicle is a ticking time bomb of obsolescence. As we conclude this deep dive masterclass, the overarching theme is clear. The American automotive market is no longer about the roar of the engine or the shine of the chrome. It is about data, efficiency, and the preservation of wealth. We have seen the rise of the Tesla Model Y as a global sales leader, the resilience of the Honda Civic in a world of giants, and the cultural dominance of the Ford F-Series. Each of these vehicles tells a story about the American driver. Some are looking for status, others for utility, and a growing number are looking for a way to opt out of the rising costs of modern life. The vehicles we have ranked today are the winners of the 2026 landscape, but the road ahead is shifting. We are entering an era of radical transparency where every repair cost, every fuel mile, and every depreciation percentage is tracked and analyzed in real time. The era of the uninformed buyer is over. You now have the framework, the data, and the case studies to make a decision that aligns with your long-term goals. Whether you choose the rugged simplicity of a used Lexus, the high-tech efficiency of a Tesla, or the pragmatic excellence of a Toyota, you are now equipped to navigate the most complex car market in history. But there is one final question that remains unanswered. As we look toward 2027, the role of the driver is changing. With the rapid advancement of Level 3 autonomous systems in popular models like the 2026 Silverado and the F-150, we are approaching a tipping point where the most popular car in America might not even require a driver. What happens to brand loyalty when the vehicle is no longer something you drive, but something you simply inhabit? What happens to the resale value of a manual transmission sports car in a world of self-driving pods? The next decade of the American automotive story is being written in the sensor arrays and the AI labs of Silicon Valley and Detroit. In our next series, we are going to go even deeper. We are going to investigate the silent grid, exploring how the massive influx of electric vehicles is forcing a total reconstruction of the American electrical infrastructure. We will look at which states are winning the race for charging dominance and which regions are at risk of a total mobility collapse. We will also reveal the top-secret 2027 prototypes that have been spotted testing in the Mojave Desert, vehicles that promise to redefine the very concept of a car. The data is already coming in, and the future of the American road is more fascinating and more volatile than ever before. Prepare for the next evolution of the masterclass because the ranking was just the beginning.